Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed your spring break because it's over. This is a review video on unions, and I'm doing it this way because, jeepers, I think we have 50 some odd days of school left, and we're running out of time. So this is your little talk on unions. They like to ask some multiple choice questions about it, and every once in a while they'll give you the option to write about it. Okay, so here we go. Unions have been around since really feudal times, but in the United States, the beginning of them really starts about the 1830s, but they come on the scene very strongly during the industrial age. So we're talking 1850s into the early 1900s. Unions came about, you guys already know, because of working conditions and wages. They felt that trusts, monopolies were really running the government, and there needed to be a change. And of course, one of the things that they talked about changing was how we break up the day. 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours of relaxation. Muckrakers such as Upton Sinclair and Jacob Riis, Ida Tarbell, Jane Addams really brought some working conditions and child labor laws to the forefront of American public policy. I want to read an excerpt from How the Other Half Lives. Jacob Riis writes, "The bulk of the sweater's work is done in the tenements, which the law that regulates factory labors does not reach. In them, the child works unchallenged from the day he is old enough to pull a thread. There is no such thing as a dinner hour. Men and women eat while they work, and the day is lengthened at both ends far into the night." Just to give you an example, in 1899, child's labor would make about 27 cents working a 14-hour day. Women got paid half as men. Women made about $270 a year, so double that for guys. And of course, in the same year, Andrew Carnegie's profits were about $23 million, and much of that, he didn't pay taxes on. So, the working class people, middle class, the poor, who are working in these factories want a change, and that change is going to help come about because of unions. One of the first unions that the Regents likes to ask about is the Knights of Labor. The Knights of Labor was trying to unionize all workers, so they could be skilled and unskilled workers. At its height, it had about 700,000 members, but eventually, because all different workers want different things, they're going to fall apart. But it was the first real attempt to organize workers. American Federation of Labor, the AFL, is really founded by Samuel Gompers. Mr. Gompers wants to unite skilled workers. These are machinery operators, in factories, things like that. Unlike the Knights of Labor, the AFL wanted to use strikes as a last resort. They wanted to collectively bargain. What that means is that management and union workers would sit down at the table and try and come to a consensus on better wages, better working conditions, things of that. Another guy that you should probably know is Eugene Debs. Eugene Debs is also a labor union leader. He's going to head the IWW, the International Workers of the World. This is labeled as a socialist organization. So, of course, you guys already know with the Red Scare that this is not something that American politicians or many American people want. But it does make some headway, because what it wants is government control of businesses. Because if government takes control, then perhaps wages will be better, working conditions will be better. Remember, this starts in the progressive movement, the populist movement. The IWW gained some steam for a while, but like the Knights of Labor and the AFL, it will also find its demise within a few years. The Haymarket affair takes place in 1877. In Chicago, a worker is killed at the McCormick Harvest plant. And so again, the workers are talking about going on strike for safety issues, and again, better working conditions, 8-hour workday, things of that. Well, as this gathering was starting to break up, a bomb is thrown, and I believe 4 policemen were killed, several were wounded, and the people who started the affair in Chicago, or the strike in Chicago, or the talk about the strike in Chicago, are arrested. They are all convicted, except the people who sat on the jury were all relatives of the police officers that got killed. They were convicted with circumstantial evidence. Even to this day, nobody knows who threw the bomb, but this actually turns public opinion against unions after the Haymarket affair. Strikes are going to continue, however. The Pullman Company strike takes place in 1893, and it takes place during an economic depression. The Pullman Company laid off more than 3,000 of its 5,800 employees and cut wages sometimes as much as 50%, but it didn't cut the cost of its employee housing. If you worked for Pullman, you lived in one of his communities, so you paid him rent, you bought from his grocery stores, things like that. So a strike was called in 1894, but the company failed to restore the wages or decrease rents. Eugene Debs actually came in and asked for arbitration. Remember, that's for somebody to come in and talk about how they can fix these problems that both sides see. But Pullman refused to negotiate. And so a lot of these people began boycotting Pullman trains. So Pullman hired strike breakers called scabs. And even President Cleveland sent in federal troops to break up this strike so that the railroads could continue to go. A lot of these workers were blacklisted. And if you were blacklisted, it means you were going to find it very, very difficult to find another job. Mary Harris Jones, better known as Mother Jones, she supported many of the strikers across America, but she was more about child labor laws. You can see the picture in the background. This is a march of children. In 1903, to expose the cruelties of child labor, mostly she focused on the mines, but later she would move to the textile mills. But in 1903, she led 80 mill children, many with hideous injuries, on a march to the home of the president, Theodore Roosevelt. And their crusade influenced the passage of child labor laws. Just to finish up, you guys, I know I look a little winded. I just got done playing Jack in three games of basketball, and the old man, his 29-year-old dad, beat him 3-0. So just had to show him who Papa Bear was. But hey, anyways, to follow up unions, just some vocab. Collective bargaining, we've talked about. That's when workers and management sit down and try to come to some agreement. Maybe it's pay, working conditions, things like that. The other one is a strike. A strike is a work stoppage. There's also picket lines. Picket lines are when there is a strike and outside people are holding signs, oftentimes reflecting the wants of the workers. There's also boycotts, and assuming you guys know what that is. We talked about it during the Revolutionary War era, but remember, a boycott is trying to hurt business by not purchasing their product. All right, you guys, so that's it. That's unions, and man, that's my spring break. It's over. I'll see you guys Monday.